Ryu Min solemnly called Ma Jongrak's name, his eyes cold and piercing as if seeing through the other's soul. He asserted, "You are not allowed to hide anything from me." Ma Jongrak turned pale, surprised to realize that Ryu Min already knew about the conversation between him and cohort. Doubt arose in his heart. How did he find out about that? Is it because of his ability to see the future? Standing on a higher step, Ryu Min bluntly questioned, "Didn't you tell her to win me over?" Ma Jongrak hurriedly apologized, excusing that he only wanted to get closer to him. Ryu Min did not let it go. He coldly warned that Ma Jongrak had crossed the line by daring to exploit Ryu Won, his younger brother. Ma Jongrak felt remorseful, bowed his head to admit his fault. He acknowledged that he had misjudged Ryu Min and promised to fix all the damage caused. Faced with the other's sincere attitude, Ryu Min temporarily let it slide. He coldly said he would pretend he never heard the conversation with cohort. Ma Jongrak breathed a sigh of relief, smiling gratefully. He knew he had just been given a second chance, one he almost lost. Assistant An entered the room, about to say something but was immediately cut off by Ma Jongrak's firm request, "Get out." The assistant was surprised, not understanding what was happening. Ma Jongrak maintained a serious attitude, unwilling to be interrupted. Ma Jongrak seriously announced that he needed to talk privately with Ryu Min. He requested the others be moved to the next room. Assistant An nodded and complied. A staff member in a suit entered the room, looking cautious as if having just received new orders. Ma Jongrak turned back to look at Ryu Min with worry. In his mind, he blamed himself for miscalculating, thinking that approaching through cohort would make everything go smoothly. Ma Jongrak hesitantly proposed, "Do you want information about the next round?" Ryu Min replied briefly, "It would be good to know." Ryu Min frankly declared that he only came to talk about round 5. However, with what Ma Jongrak had done, he could not easily cooperate or provide information. Ma Jongrak immediately apologized, hoping Ryu Min would forgive him. Ryu Min responded seriously that if he wanted to do business with him, Ma Jongrak must be absolutely honest and trust him. Ryu Min emphasized that there should be no gossip about the company's board during the shareholders' meeting. Ma Jongrak hastily promised to control the other shareholders. Ryu Min smiled lightly, affirming that if properly supported, he would devote himself to developing the company. Ma Jongrak exhaled and began providing information as promised. "About round 5 that you want to know." He affirmed that round 5 would be more brutal than any previous round, his eyes becoming serious. Nevertheless, Ryu Min calmly said he did not need to worry because he himself would not have difficulty overcoming it. Ma Jongrak curiously asked, "What is the mission this time that makes you so sure?" Ryu Min revealed that the mission in round 5 was to eliminate 300 orcs, but warned that it was not simple at all. He continued to disclose a shocking piece of information. The areas would be merged together. Ma Jongrak was surprised and repeated the question about the areas. Ryu Min confirmed that it was true. Ma Jongrak speculated that the merger was to compensate for the reduced number of players. The prospect of encountering experts from other areas immediately made him think of Black Side. However, Ryu Min dashed his hopes by affirming that Ma Jongrak would not be in the same area as Black Scythe. Ma Jongrak appeared disappointed but remained curious. He asked if Ryu Min knew Black Scythe's true identity. Ryu Min denied it, saying he himself was not clear but promised that Ma Jongrak would soon meet that person, even though in reality he was standing right in front of him. Ryu Min continued to reveal another piece of information, this time related to Ma Jongrak's current target, Hwang Yangmin. Ma Jongrak was stunned to learn that Ryu Min had read that intention, amazed at his ability to predict the future thanks to the Rune of Future. Ryu Min firmly demanded that Ma Jongrak stop hunting Hwang Yangmin, leaving him confused and immediately asking why. Ryu Min issued a serious warning to Ma Jongrak. If he touched Black Scythe, the price to pay would be very high. Ma Jongrak anxiously asked for details, but Ryu Min only gave a vague answer that was all he could reveal. Ma Jongrak pondered silently, quietly considering something, worry and hesitation clearly showing on his face. Ryu Min smiled coldly, thinking to himself that he was only protecting Ma Jongrak because he saw him as potentially useful in the future, not out of genuine goodwill. Finally, Ma Jongrak reluctantly accepted Ryu Min's advice, promising not to try to track down Black Scythe anymore. The two ended their conversation. Ma Jongrak took the initiative to withdraw, suggesting returning to the party without alcohol and would call the others over. Ryu Min gently agreed. Ma Jongrak stepped out of the room, trying to regain composure, silently thinking he needed to relieve the tension after this heavy conversation. The scene shifted. A strange man was badly injured, staggering and fleeing in the night rain, breathing heavily with blood spreading on his left shoulder. The wounded man continued running through a deserted alley, blood still dripping, rain pouring nonstop. He tried to reach a place with faint light from a house ahead. His face showed clear horror. The wound on his shoulder still bled, sweat mixed with rainwater dripping from his chin as he struggled to stay conscious. He suddenly stopped on a metal step, turning his head up with a stunned expression. Something terrified him deeply, as if the pursuer was about to get close. Hwang Yongmin, the pedophile who had been condemned, was desperately seeking shelter under the pouring rain, his arm tightly clutching the bloodied wound. From the darkness, cold footsteps echoed. A figure was approaching, full of murderous intent. Yongmin turned around, horrified to see the pursuer drawing a sword. The steel flashed in the cold rain, spreading fear. The blade struck down. Blood splattered everywhere. Hwang Yongmin screamed in pain with no escape route left. Another slash aimed at his leg. Blood gushed like a stream. Yongmin lost balance and collapsed. His whole body rolled in a puddle mixed with blood, screaming in terrible pain, his cries echoing through the night. A gray-haired young man stepped forward. His cold face was clear under the moonlight. He ordered, "Silence, unless you want to lose your tongue." Yongmin begged desperately, asking why he was being hunted. The young man replied with contempt pedophilia was reason enough for punishment. Yongmin argued back, saying the past was over and he had served his sentence. He begged for mercy, claiming he was just an ordinary old man. Without answering, the young man drew his sword from its sheath. The cold blue light reflected on the blade. A death sentence was decided. In anger, the gray-haired young man swung his sword hard into the old man's abdomen. A cold, finishing blow without hesitation, blood gushing out. The old man screamed in pain, but the young man showed no mercy, withdrawing his sword while threatening, "Scream again, and you'll die even more painfully." The pedophile collapsed onto the ground, tears and sweat mixing with blood. Fear was clearly visible in his panicked eyes. The gray-haired young man smiled sarcastically, speaking with disdain. "Scum like you living is a sin, agree or not." The sword in his hand radiated a black-purple energy, shaped like a coiling snake, fierce and eerie, symbolizing righteous fury. The black-purple aura surged powerfully, enveloping both the young man and the pedophile. The air seemed torn apart by the terrifying power of punishment. The old man was terrified to the extreme, screaming in panic as his body was tightly bound by the magical energy he could not resist. The aura began to corrode his body, seeping deep into his flesh. He writhed in desperate pain, his screams echoing through the dark, rainy alley. The pedophile's form gradually distorted and was submerged in the black-purple energy. Blood, flesh, and guilt merged into a vortex of retribution. In the final moment, his bloodied hand reached up for help amid the rain, then was completely swallowed by the net of judgment. Black Scythe stood calmly in the rain, watching the criminal writhing in pain at his feet, covered by dark energy. He silently cursed that dark magic required time to accumulate. If not for that, he would have ended this bastard with a single sword strike. Black Scythe glanced at his sword, the dark magic clearly swirling around the blade, a power that required dark magic to wield. He tightened his grip on the hilt, thinking, to restore dark magic he needed one thing, to steal the life of a living being. Black Scythe coldly declared the end. "Now die!" Dark light flared fiercely from the sword. The criminal struggled desperately, trying to grasp at life despite having no hope left. But the blade pierced through, carrying dark energy that devoured his body, while Black Scythe absorbed more magic from the death. Black Scythe lightly brushed his face, silently admitting to himself, "I've always enjoyed killing criminals." He smiled coldly, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Perhaps becoming a Dark Knight was my destiny." The gray-haired young man, known as the Dark Knight, commanded the sword to absorb the life force just gained. Dark aura erupted, wrapping the blade in eerie purple smoke. He silently looked down at the bloodied body of the fallen criminal, the sword still embedded in the corpse. The residual magic was still spreading. After a few seconds of observation, he realized the dark aura was no longer absorbing anything. The corpse had no value. What he needed was living life force. He pondered, then slightly shrugged as if understanding the rule. Dark aura only consumed living creatures, not corpses. Suddenly his eyes brightened, his gaze piercing as he sensed something moving. From the dark alley corner, a stray cat quietly ran past. It had no idea what it had just witnessed. The young man glanced after the cat and sighed softly. He reassured himself that no one had seen his actions. He recalled the entire plan, luring the prey into a deserted alley early in the morning with no one around. Every step was calculated. But then he suddenly thought of one person, Ryu Min, bearer of the Rune of Future, who could foresee the future. If Ryu Min had seen this scene, then he knew clearly that he was the killer. Thinking of this, he smiled slightly. Interesting indeed. After finishing off the criminal, the gray-haired young man, Dark Knight, took out his phone and coldly called, "Mr. An, clean up the trash here." Time passed. 2 weeks after the party with Ma Jeongrok, Seoul's sky remained clear, but underground plans had begun to move. Ryu Min rested in his apartment. With no plans for the day, he chose to relax and conserve energy for a turbulent future. However, that break ended. Ryu Min browsed the Players Changing the World (PCW) forum, a gathering place for players influencing the new order. His finger decisively pressed the join button. It's time to act. A rune shone brightly within the energy stream, the rune of incarnation, one of the 5 rare runes existing in the real world. Ryu Min smiled coldly. The rune of incarnation is about to appear. He knew that moment would reshape the entire game. The world fell into chaos as more than 1.8 billion people were transported to another world, and only 90 million survived within 3 months. Global news reflected the collapse of society, with schools suspended, the economy paralyzed, and widespread mourning everywhere. In a blood-stained room, Shim Hyuntik, a chubby student wearing glasses, sat silently scrolling through his phone among corpses. He casually commented on the number of deaths in round 4, calling them idiots. Ignoring the news headlines about the chaos outside, Hyuntik laughed scornfully. To him, it was meaningless for ordinary people to criticize players, because if they were players, they would do the same as him. He stood up, gripping his axe tightly, unleashing all his resentment in curses against society. Shim Hyuntik despised the rules that once bound him when he was an ordinary student. In a fit of extreme anger, he tightened his grip on the weapon handle, his whole body trembling from uncontrollable rage. Unable to hold back any longer, Hyuntik slammed the axe hard onto the ground, creating a violent shockwave in the classroom full of corpses. A lifeless gaze appeared amid the ashes and ruins as Hyuntik muttered that no one could stop him anymore. He smirked confidently in his superior strength because now he was a player. In the blood-soaked classroom filled with dead bodies, Hyuntik stood at the center of the massacre, coldly asking, "Who's next to die?" With an indifferent smile, he realized he no longer felt guilt. After surviving the hell of round 4, killing people in real life was now just a trivial matter. Shim Hyuntik stood in the classroom full of corpses, frowning because each person only provided him with 1 rune stack. Disappointment showed clearly on his face as he muttered, perhaps because they were just ordinary people. Memories surfaced in Hyuntik's mind. To him, round 4 was the best opportunity, where harvesting runes from others was easier than hunting monsters. The absorption rune, the type of rune he used, allowed random stat increases each time enough stacks were accumulated from killing people. Hyuntik realized killing was much more effective than monster hunting. He wanted to kill more players instead of civilians because the amount of stacks received would be higher, helping him grow stronger faster. Reading about a forum dedicated to players, Hyuntik recalled the Player Unity Forum, a place gathering players opposing the government. A wicked idea popped into his head. Pretend to join the forum, connect with other players, then betray and kill them to accumulate stacks faster. Shim Hyuntik began the registration process for the forum, carefully reading terms such as providing real identity and attending direct interviews to verify player status. He grimaced in annoyance at being required to provide personal information and attend an interview, but that did not make him abandon his plan. Despite the hassle, Hyuntik decided to register. His goal was clear: meet players and strike from behind, betraying them to harvest power. While filling out the registration form, Hyuntik chuckled maliciously. To him, no one could suspect the bloody plan he was secretly preparing. Shim Hyuntik stood in front of a cafe in a quiet forest, confirming the designated location for the interview. A message from the interviewer confirmed. The meeting point was Hello Cafe in Wabuyup, Namyeonjusi, and requested casual attire. He confirmed once again. It was indeed Hello Cafe as arranged, but still felt uneasy. Hyuntik panted and muttered about having to come to such a remote place without even a bus route. Pushing open the door and entering, Hyuntik vented his frustration. If the interviewer made him uncomfortable, he would not hesitate to act. However, the interior surprised him, much more elegant and quiet than he had imagined. Looking around, he noticed only 2 customers in the cafe, a man and a person wearing a pink hoodie. The man stood up, approached Hyuntik, and confirmed that he was a candidate joining PUF. He asked for the in-game nickname, and Hyuntik proudly replied, "The Black Dragon in my right hand." The man cheerfully introduced himself as the interviewer. Nickname, "I am 30, a 29-year-old player." He invited Hyuntik to the table to begin the interview. The interviewer introduced the 2 candidates to each other. The person in the pink hoodie was Mr. Teeny Clam, and the chubby guy with glasses was Mr. Black Dragon in my right hand. Shim Hyuntik, Mr. Black Dragon, silently judged Mr. Teeny Clam as weak, confident that he could kill him with a single punch. The 2 exchanged polite greetings. Sitting down at the table, Shim Hyuntik quietly observed the surroundings. He wondered if this cafe was really operational since he saw no other customers or staff. The interviewer, "I am 30, explained that due to the cafe's remote location, it was rarely visited. Because of that, the place was borrowed to hold discreet interviews. Mr. Teeny Clam asked why the owner was not present. The interviewer replied that the owner was in the kitchen preparing food, as the cafe served both meals and coffee. Shim Hyuntik nodded understandingly, but his eyes continuously scanned the environment with calculating intent. He quickly noticed there were no security cameras in the cafe, a detail that immediately made him think about the possibility of acting without being detected. In his mind, Shim Hyung-taek conceived the idea of killing both remaining people and leaving. But then he restrained himself, not wanting to lose the chance to join the PUF forum over 2 lives. When asked why the interview hadn't started yet, I am 30 said one more person hadn't arrived. They would wait until the last candidate appeared before beginning. Shim Hyung-taek appeared surprised. He confirmed that this interview had a total of 3 candidates. During the conversation at Hello Cafe, I am 30 suddenly noticed a man in a black suit approaching. He was the final candidate. The doorbell rang softly, signaling the arrival of the newcomer. I am 30 quickly went to greet the new guest, asking to confirm if he was a candidate for PUF. The man nodded in confirmation. When asked for his nickname, the man in the suit answered decisively, Black Scythe. The name stunned I am 30 into silence. Cut to a few days earlier, an online meeting of the PUF forum was underway with core members like Ms. Yamty, Mr. Poppering, and others present. The meeting chair, a man wearing glasses, announced the start of the scheduled meeting. He called out members' names, including Mr. Lost Yak, and asked about the number of new forum joiners that week. Mr. Lost Yak reported about 2,000 people had registered, a higher number than the previous week. Although the number of players was gradually decreasing, new applicants kept increasing. The chairperson speculated that the reason was an article about the 4-player forum that had attracted attention. He suspected someone was behind spreading this information. Ms. Yamty happily admitted she was the one who released the article. She said she had just established connections in the media to do such things. The chair expressed admiration for Ms. Yamty, a veteran member. Then he shifted to ask Mr. Lost Yak about how many truly potential players were among the 2,000 people. The answer was about 1,200 after excluding those without a class or below level 10. In the PUF council meeting, the chair asked bluntly how many new players were genuinely useful. He paused before passing the floor to Mr. Poppering, who volunteered to answer. Mr. Poppering began presenting, emphasizing that one of the most notable players was Black Dragon in my right hand, from area ESKS 45-5. Although only a level 10 warrior, this player was reported to have ranked 3rd in the region. Members expressed doubts about this achievement. Some thought it was due to strong runes or simply that he was lying. Nevertheless, given such ability, they agreed that Black Dragon could be considered for an executive position. Mr. Poppering continued reporting on the second person, Mr. Teeny Clam. He came from area ESKS 122-7, with a rank ranging from 4 to 10, also a potential candidate. The chairman added that about 50 other players had made it into the top 100 in various areas. This number exceeded expectations, causing him to worry there wouldn't be enough time to interview them all before the next meeting. He turned his attention to Mr. I am 30, who was in charge of the interviews, and requested confirmation. Surprised, Mr. I am 30 was flustered when called upon. The chairman sternly reprimanded Mr. I am 30 for being sleepy during the meeting. He did not accept any excuses and ordered that 50 people must be interviewed before the next meeting, or he would be replaced. Mr. I am 30 panicked, bowed his head apologetically, and affirmed he would complete the assigned task without failure. Before concluding, the chairman asked Mr. Lost Yak about any contact signs from the famous player Black Scythe. Lost Yak quickly replied that he would report immediately if there were any, but so far there had been none. The chairman nodded, considering that believable. He regretfully said that if Black Scythe agreed to participate, he was ready to grant an executive position immediately, but unfortunately there was no signal from him yet. The PUF forum chairman requested Yamty to contact reporters to write more promotional articles to attract Black Scythe's attention. Yamty considered and agreed, on the condition of receiving appropriate compensation. The chairman reassured Yamty that she would be generously rewarded in proportion to her efforts. Yamty happily agreed and sweetly thanked him. As the meeting was about to end, an employee suddenly announced that a player had just registered to join the forum. This information made him break out in a sweat. The chairman immediately became serious and demanded a report on the identity of the new registrant, his eyes sharp and full of concern. The employee nervously announced the new player's identity as Black Scythe, causing the entire meeting room to tremble. All members of the PUF Forum Council, including Yamty, the chairman, and others like Lost Yak, Poppering I am 30, were extremely surprised by this shocking news. A receptionist wearing a white shirt warmly welcomed Black Scythe to the interview, politely asking about his trip. Black Scythe admitted the trip was quite inconvenient. The staff quickly apologized for the remote location and explained that this place was ideal for a secret meeting. While guiding him, the staff did not hesitate to compliment Black Scythe's real-life appearance, suggesting he must be very popular with women. The receptionist led Black Scythe to the interview table, inviting him to sit next to two other candidates who had arrived earlier, one wearing a pink hood covering their face, and a muscular man in black silently waiting. The mysterious interview officially began. Black Scythe was led to the interview table where two other candidates were already waiting. One wore a pink hoodie, the other was a chubby guy with glasses, looking tense. The chubby guy with glasses could only break out in cold sweat, unable to utter a word in the imposing presence of Black Scythe. The person in the pink hoodie gently bowed and greeted. "Ah, hello," Black Scythe calmly responded, introducing himself. "I am Black Scythe." The guy in the pink hoodie also introduced his forum name. "I am Teeny Clam," but inwardly doubted the other. Who does this clown think he is? At the PUF Council headquarters, Mr. President asked Ms. Yamty to urge a close reporter to write more PR articles. They want to promote the forum to a special player, Black Scythe. Ms. Yamty agreed with a charming smile, as long as she was paid a fair fee. Mr. President assured her that she would be compensated appropriately for her efforts. Just as the meeting was about to end, an employee discovered shocking news. A new player had just registered on the forum. All council members were stunned when they heard the identity of that player. It was Black Scythe himself. Immediately after, a middle-aged man wearing a white shirt went to the door to welcome Black Scythe, showing great respect. Black Scythe commented that the route here was somewhat inconvenient. The man forced a smile, apologized for the remote location, but said it was an ideal place for secret meetings. On the way leading Black Scythe into the room, he kept praising the real-life appearance of the young man, making others look on with envy. The two arrived at the interview table. He showed Black Scythe where to sit and introduced two other candidates waiting, one wearing a pink hoodie and another wearing glasses with a large bill. The large man just sweated nervously without saying a word. The one in the pink hoodie slightly bowed his head gently, appearing shy. Black Scythe sat coldly, introducing himself by his familiar nickname. The one in the pink hoodie then introduced himself. He was Teeny Clam. The interviewer confirmed information from Kim Seung-hyun, posing as Teeny Clam, asking if he was really a level 13 assassin and ranked in the top 4 in the region. Seung-hyun nodded in confirmation. In his heart, Kim Seung-hyun silently scolded himself for lying blatantly. Everything he declared was false, except for the nickname Teeny Clam. Teeny Clam is the nickname of a real player. Seung-hyun was impersonating him to meet the necessary conditions to obtain the clone rune. The condition to obtain the clone rune is to impersonate someone else and kill a person at the location where the rune is hidden. In the past, Kyukyurupingpong, that is Kim In-hong, had impersonated Seung-hyun and killed someone to get the clone rune. The interviewer moved on to Shim Hyuntik, nicknamed Black Dragon. He truthfully stated he was a high school student, 15 years old. The interviewer was surprised because Hyuntik was the youngest candidate, while Seung-hyun silently sneered in contempt. Seung-hyun thought to himself, if they knew Shim Hyuntik had coldly killed his classmates, they surely wouldn't look down on him like that. The interviewer confirmed information about Hyuntik, level 10, ranked top 3 in the region. Hyuntik showed discomfort at the suspicion. It was Kim In-hong's turn, nicknamed Black Scythe. He confidently introduced himself as 28 years old, a fund manager, level 30, and always ranked first in the region. He emphasized he was a Reaper. The man in charge of the interview forced a laugh, trying to hide his anxiety before Kim In-hong's aura, the man sitting opposite him. Teeny Clam, Kim Seung-hyun, looked at Kim In-hong with disdain. He knew well that the man in the suit was just a fraud disguised as a financial investor. The information verification ended. The interviewer officially began the interview round. The first called was Teeny Clam. Kim Seung-hyun, Teeny Clam, nervously used the excuse of a dangerous world to explain his desire to work with others. He could not reveal his true motive. It was Shim Hyuntik's Black Dragon turn. A dark thought echoed in his mind, a desire to kill, but he could not say it out loud. The chubby student answered evasively, lying that his reason was similar to Teeny Clam's. He feared for his future when he could no longer attend school. The interviewer asked Kim In-hong, Black Scythe. He casually replied that he found the forum post interesting and applied just for fun. The interviewer forced a smile. Teeny Clam thought, with Black Scythe's reputation, he would be given special treatment no matter what he said. The interviewer commented that all three answered satisfactorily from the forum's perspective and prepared to announce the final test before joining. The man smiled coldly, declaring the final task, killing someone. Only by doing so could they pass the interview round. Teeny Clam was horrified upon hearing the requirement to kill someone to pass the interview. He was confused, not understanding the reason behind such cruelty. The interview team leader noticed Teeny Clam's confusion. He offered to explain why killing was necessary to join the PUF organization. He began reasoning, saying that the government was trying to control and suppress the power of players, something he considered beyond humanity. He clenched his fist, affirming that a world ruled by players was an inevitable future, and if everyone united, it would come sooner. The team leader showed fanaticism. He declared that players did not need to obey current laws, but must rise up and prove that they were the new law. Teeny Clam still couldn't believe what he heard. He asked again, kill someone just for that? But the leader replied that it was a way to show resistance against the government and affirm the will of the players. Black Dragon remained silent. Meanwhile, Black Scythe spoke gravely, concluding, the act of killing was a declaration that players would not be bound by the law. The interviewer continued, pressing with a question. Do you understand, Mr. Clam? Under pressure, Teeny Clam reluctantly nodded in agreement. The team leader calmly said, anyone still hesitant could leave, but they would no longer receive support from PUF in the future. The choice was clear but threatening. Teeny Clam pondered. He realized this was a trap. Once they killed someone, they would be permanently bound to the organization. Those who refused would be blacklisted and completely isolated. Shim Hyuntik and Kim In-hong silently observed, while Kim Seung-hyun bowed his head anxiously. A tense atmosphere enveloped the small room. The interview team leader smiled with satisfaction, seeing all three still seated. He announced that the final test would continue. Kim Seung-hyun hesitantly asked again, worried about killing. He wondered because there was no one here to kill. The leader reassured him they did not need to worry about that. The leader smiled meaningfully, revealing that they had prepared a special target for this situation. Outside, heavy rain began to pour, signaling a gloomy atmosphere approaching. The leader stood up, inviting the group to leave the table. Kim Seung-hyun responded, agreeing to follow without objection. A female server with short brown hair and a yellow apron approached to inquire when she saw the group preparing to leave earlier than expected. The leader replied to the girl that the group had urgent business. Then he took the opportunity to ask for the restroom location. The server directed them toward the corner of the cafe. The leader thanked her and added an unexpected request. He handed the car keys to the girl, asking her to drive the car out because the group was in a hurry. The seemingly harmless request concealed a hidden plot. The server smiled and agreed to help by driving the car out, without any suspicion of the true intention behind the request. The heavy rain continued. The girl holding a red umbrella stepped out of the cafe, heading to the designated car, unaware she was walking into a trap. In the pouring rain, she opened the car door to fulfill the request. There was no warning sign of the lurking danger. She folded her umbrella and stepped close to the car to carry out the task, unaware that someone was approaching from behind. The interview team leader's hand silently reached forward, preparing to act with cold eyes and no hesitation. Suddenly, he tightened his grip around the girl's neck from behind. She had no time to react before being completely subdued. A weak scream escaped in vain as she was pulled backward, her eyes filled with fear and panic. The girl struggled desperately, trying to break free, but the attacker's strength was too great, preventing her escape. The interview team leader held tightly onto her lifeless body, whispering, "So easy," with a chillingly satisfied expression. Teeny Clam and Black Dragon witnessed the entire event with stunned and horrified faces. They could not believe what had just happened. The interview team leader ordered the group into the car, urging everyone to act quickly in the rain. The cafe owner girl was tied up, unconscious, and placed in the back seat, revealing that she was the target of the test. Teeny Clam was stunned to realize the truth. The kind woman just now was the prey that the organization had prepared. The vehicle carrying the group rolled through the dense forest amid heavy rain. The wheels ground harshly on the wet ground, the engine's sound echoing through the silent forest. The car stopped in front of a large brick building, the place where the final test would take place. The team leader still carried the unconscious girl's body. They all entered a dark warehouse. Gas cans and ropes were placed ready, evoking a grim atmosphere. The girl was thrown onto the cold floor. The team leader asked who among them wanted to take direct action, igniting the crime about to unfold. The team leader turned to ask Black Scythe if he wanted to be the one to carry out the killing. Black Scythe calmly agreed, causing everyone around to shudder. As Black Scythe stepped forward, someone spoke up to stop him, asking him to wait, signaling that something unexpected was about to happen. When the interview team leader intended to assign the killing task to Black Scythe, Teeny Clam suddenly spoke up, requesting to do it instead. The team leader appeared surprised, thinking that shy Teeny Clam would not dare to accept this task. The team leader turned to ask Black Scythe's opinion. He nodded in approval and politely yielded the right to Teeny Clam. The group began to move positions. Teeny Clam approached the unconscious target, preparing to take action. Black Scythe walked past Teeny Clam, coldly advising, "Do it well. I'm leaving this part to you." Teeny Clam's eyes lit up. He silently thanked and affirmed he would use the clone rune effectively, implying his real goal was to obtain this rune. Black Scythe suddenly turned back, suspicious of Teeny Clam's strange words. He asked again, "Rune, your." Suddenly, Teeny Clam launched a swift attack aimed straight at Black Scythe's face, catching him off guard. The powerful blow struck Black Scythe's head, light flashing from the rune's effect. The bloody rebellion officially began. The young man wearing a pink hoodie, the real person named Little Cockle, stepped forward, facing Black Scythe with a cold and decisive gaze. Black Scythe turned around, but before he could react, Little Cockle's hand was raised, ready to strike. The team leader of the interview saw the scene, stunned, stepping back in panic. He screamed in horror, unable to believe his eyes. Black Scythe had been killed right before him. Little Cockle casually turned away, showing annoyance at the team leader's shouting. The team leader stammered, terrified by Little Cockle's beast-like cold gaze, completely different from the weak boy before. The system appeared. Little Cockle had killed someone while disguised, qualifying to unlock the hidden rune of cloning. A brilliant golden magical light radiated from him. The rune of cloning was officially engraved on his body. Little Cockle smiled faintly, confirming that the impersonation plan by Teeny Clam's fake Little Cockle had yielded the expected result. The team leader could not understand his actions and questioned him repeatedly. Little Cockle calmly replied, "Because he was a fool who dared to impersonate me." The team leader asked in astonishment again, not understanding what he meant about identity theft. He still had not realized the truth before him. He continued shouting, questioning why Little Cockle did not kill the girl as planned but killed Black Scythe instead. Meanwhile, Little Cockle knelt beside the girl and picked up a hood. Little Cockle calmly answered, "He killed Black Scythe because that guy was a bastard, just like the team leader." The anger and disgust in his voice were very clear. He gently put the black hood over the tied-up girl, the cafe waitress. This was a surprising action, showing an intention to protect rather than harm. The team leader was furious. He stepped forward, gritting his teeth and demanding Little Cockle repeat what he just said, angry at being insulted. Without waiting any longer, he drew a brightly shining golden sword, ready to attack, his face twisted with anger and rage. The sword struck Little Cockle. Blood splattered, but instead of retreating, he calmly looked at him. Another source of power was erupting. Within the blazing red-black aura, Little Cockle summoned his weapon, a giant scythe. His voice was cold. "I called you a bastard, did I? Is that wrong?" The team leader suddenly froze. He recognized that weapon, the scythe, which was characteristic of a notorious player, Black Scythe. He panicked as he realized the truth. The person standing before him was not an ordinary man, but the real Black Scythe, the only one who used a giant scythe as his main weapon. The real Black Scythe removed his mask, coldly calling the man he just killed a fool who dared to steal his identity. The surviving man began to feel suspicious. Black Scythe raised the scythe, coldly confirming his true identity. The man was stunned, stammering, "You are Black Scythe." Black Scythe bowed his head slightly, apologizing for lying. His tone and sharp gaze made the atmosphere freeze. The man trembled, sweating. Fear rose in his heart as he realized the truth. The person before him was never Little Cockle, but the genuine Black Scythe. Panicked, he immediately knelt down, begging for mercy. He blamed himself for not recognizing Black Scythe due to his convincing acting. Black Scythe answered briefly, "I don't want to." Immediately after, blood spurted from the man's neck. He only managed to say, "Sorry," before collapsing. The scene became eerie. Black Scythe stood coldly there while the man collapsed in a pool of blood. A new character, a young man wearing glasses, stood at a distance witnessing everything. The young man with glasses shuddered in horror upon seeing the corpse right before him. Though standing far away, he trembled with fear. The real Black Scythe unleashed a sharp scythe swing, creating a brilliant blood-red wave in the silent space. He stood firm and majestic, his power and killing intent far beyond what everyone around imagined. A player in the interview group, witnessing the scene, trembled as he realized this was the real Black Scythe, and his power was on a completely different level. The player with round glasses continued to retreat in horror. Sweat poured down as he stammered in his mind, "I didn't even see when that scythe swing happened." The speed and power of Black Scythe left him unable to resist or even think about escaping. The real Black Scythe stood in the warehouse facing Teeny Clam. His voice was cold. "Now it's just the two of us. You know what I intend to do, right?" Black Scythe tightened his glowing red scythe, his eyes sharp as knives. He gave Teeny Clam a chance. "Say your last words if you have anything to say." Teeny Clam tried to regain composure, trembling. I won't beg for mercy, but I have a question I've wanted to ask for a long time." Black Scythe tilted his head coldly, guessing the question correctly. "You want to know why I killed you 5 times in 4 rounds, right?" Teeny Clam, real name Kim Seung-hyun, nodded in panic, cold sweat pouring down. Black Scythe pointed his scythe at him. It's simple, because I consider you a rival. Black Scythe looked straight into his eyes. Because among all you have the best skills, I must eliminate all potential rivals. Shim Hyung-tik stood silently in the warehouse, his eyes blank before the corpse and severed head at his feet. When Black Scythe coldly asked, anything else, he could only stammer. With no hope of escape, he seemed completely resigned. Black Scythe raised his glowing red scythe, coldly confirming the impending death. Hyung-tik trembled, mustering courage to ask one last question. Why are you killing me? The question was not a plea, but a final inquiry from someone who had always lived in fear of an incomprehensible power. Black Scythe coldly pointed the tip of his scythe at Shim Hyung-tik, stating plainly the reason for killing him, because he was also a bastard who came to kill an innocent woman. Shim Hyung-tik asked in shock, thinking he had done nothing, but Black Scythe exposed the truth. Not acting does not mean innocence. He was just a bystander who allowed evil to happen. Cornered, Shim Hyung-tik fell silent and slowly stepped toward Black Scythe. At his feet lay the woman's corpse, clear evidence of his group's brutality. Black Scythe suddenly stopped and exhaled softly. After a moment of silence, he made a verdict. I will give you a chance to live. Shim Hyung-tik was stunned to be spared. He couldn't believe his ears, his face brightening as he asked hopefully again. Black Scythe did not answer directly but lowered his scythe to the floor. The only condition stated, in return, hand over everything you have. Shim Hyung-tik hurriedly took out all items, equipment, runes, weapons, and supplies, placing them before Black Scythe. He said he was not hiding anything. Black Scythe examined the pile of items with satisfaction, thinking silently that this could sell for about 2,000 gold at the shop. Shim Hyung-tik bowed his head anxiously, affirming, this is all I have nothing else. Black Scythe kept his cold gaze, showing no reaction. Black Scythe picked up the runes calmly and said, I do not doubt you, but his eyes showed no sign of trust. Black Scythe took only the necessary items and allowed Shim Hyung-tik to keep the rest. Hyung-tik was surprised and quickly agreed. Although allowed to keep the remaining items, Shim Hyung-tik thought they were worthless since they couldn't be sold at the shop. Shim Hyung-tik stammered, asking again about the promise of being spared, hoping he was not being deceived. Black Scythe confirmed the promise. He said briefly, a promise is a promise, relieving Hyung-tik's burden. Shim Hyung-tik bowed repeatedly in gratitude, tears nearly spilling. Black Scythe coldly told him to stop because it was excessive. Black Scythe advised him to live properly from now on and left the responsibility of handling the corpse to Hyung-tik. The fat man could only obey. Black Scythe approached a brown-haired girl wearing a pale yellow shirt who was unconscious and decided to take her away. Shim Hyung-tik offered to help, but Black Scythe flatly refused, saying he didn't trust him and ordered him to leave. Black Scythe supported the brown-haired girl and left. Shim Hyung-tik could only silently watch, not daring to react. Shim Hyung-tik sighed in relief for surviving. Despite losing some items, he knew it was nothing compared to his life. The man with glasses, who had once trembled begging for his life, now felt confused. Although spared, an inexplicable unease welled up inside him. He began to question himself. Was standing by without intervening really deserving such punishment? Was losing his items fair? A feeling of resentment gradually arose. He gritted his teeth, watching Black Scythe carry the girl away, his heart full of hatred. Unfair. Black Scythe supported the still unconscious brown-haired girl, heading toward the door. Behind them, the man with glasses' eyes began to gleam with scheming thoughts. Wait. Dark thoughts rose in his mind. The powerful Black Scythe was vulnerable. He thought just one stab in the back could kill him. Kill him and I'll get a lot of points, he whispered. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity appeared before him. Sweating and trembling with tension but eyes full of ambition, he knew if he missed this chance, he would regret it forever. With clenched hands, he drew a glowing battle axe, one of the weapons left on the floor. Determination was clear in his actions. Bending low, he silently approached. In his mind, he kept repeating, don't let him notice, don't notice. When only a short distance remained, his eyes flashed with murderous intent. He tightened his grip on the weapon, ready to strike, hopping to end everything in one blow. The chubby man with glasses silently approached behind Black Scythe, eyes flashing with opportunity. He whispered, now. Without hesitation, he swung the axe overhead, shouting in a frenzy, die, you bastard. The axe struck down hard, stained with bright red blood and bursting with powerful effects. Both Black Scythe and the girl he was supporting immediately collapsed to the floor, blood pooling around them. The man stood still for a moment, as if unable to believe he had succeeded. He laughed half joyfully, half in disbelief. I killed Black Scythe that easily. His ecstatic frenzy peaked as he burst into mad laughter, repeating the name Black Scythe as if he had just defeated a legend. He mercilessly kicked Black Scythe's body, cursing the foolish victim for turning his back on his enemy. In his eyes now, this victory was incomparable. He clenched his fists, grinning wickedly, and declared, thanks for the stats, bastard. He strolled away with a satisfied smile, leaving behind the bodies of Black Scythe and the motionless girl. But his smile soon faded as he puzzled. Why hasn't the stat increase notification appeared? It should have shown by now. The man with glasses began to panic when no notification appeared. Doubt arose in his heart. Something wrong was happening. In a chilling moment, Black Scythe appeared behind him with eyes glowing red full of death. His calm voice sounded like a verdict. What do you think is happening? The man with glasses was shocked, realizing the nightmare had only just begun. The imposter was stunned and panicked when he realized something unusual was happening after his attack. He was horrified to see a young man wearing a pink hood and a mask slowly pulling the hood down. It was the real Black Scythe. The young man asked him if he was scared because he saw a ghost. The imposter stammered, unable to understand what was happening. He was sure he had just killed Black Scythe, or at least thought so. He wondered if the other had resurrection skills. He stepped back a few steps, touching the body of the girl lying motionless on the floor, clearly still there. But something was very wrong. The imposter looked to the side, sweating profusely. His eyes began to show suspicion and worry. He froze when he discovered the body had no blood. Instead, a strange blue energy was fatting away. The real Black Scythe stood opposite him, revealing that the one he killed was only a copy, a clone. The imposter could not believe it. He repeated Black Scythe's words as if to confirm that he had just killed a clone. Black Scythe explained, the rune of cloning allows him to create an identical copy of himself. In the background, the clone was fatting while the real Black Scythe stood before the imposter, supporting the injured woman. A system window appeared describing the rune of cloning. It can create a non-combat clone that lasts for 10 minutes cooldown. Black Scythe smiled, affirming that although it's not for fighting, it's enough to test people's hearts. He softly said, a perfect test. Teeny Clam shouted in anger, gripping his axe tightly, yelling because he was deceived. Why you tricked me? Black Scythe calmly replied, turning the blame around. He was the victim who was almost killed, while Teeny Clam played the role of the injured party. Black Scythe didn't bother arguing, gently saying, it doesn't matter anyway. In his hand, a fierce red-black energy flared up. In the blink of an eye, Black Scythe swung his scythe, drawing a blazing red slash straight through Teeny Clam's body. Teeny Clam stood motionless, eyes rolled back, unable to understand why his body wouldn't move. Black Scythe coldly declared, listening to you is just a waste of time, then delivered the finishing blow, his scythe tearing apart the traitor's body. He silently cast the next skill, Erase Traces. A mystical green light spread from the corpse. The room was filled with the skill's light. All bloodstains, corpses, even weapon fragments were completely erased without a trace. Black Scythe turned his back and left, thinking, no one can know this place was once a massacre scene except one person. He stepped toward the brown-haired girl, the sole survivor. She was still unconscious, unaware of what had just happened. Black Scythe softly called, hey, can you hear me? Black Scythe stood before the girl in a pale yellow shirt lying motionless on the floor. Knowing she was pretending to be unconscious, he frankly told her not to waste effort. With his special ability, Black Scythe could hear others' thoughts. The girl panicked and sat up abruptly, bowing her head and apologizing repeatedly, her voice trembling with fear under Black Scythe's intimidation. She timidly asked permission to remove the cloth bag covering her face. However, Black Scythe ordered her to keep it on until he left. She could only obey. Black Scythe announced he would leave after a few questions and asked for her cooperation. She immediately agreed without hesitation. Black Scythe asked about the number of customers who had visited this place and whether she could remember their faces. She said there were 4 people, one in his 40s, who was the only one she directly talked to. Looking at her expression and thoughts, Black Scythe confirmed she was telling the truth. The interrogation ended, and the girl anxiously asked if she was safe and if everything was over. Black Scythe allowed her to leave, but warned her not to report to the police. That could get her into trouble. He also instructed her to only remove the cloth bag after 1 more minute. The girl bowed her head in agreement, not daring to object or ask any further questions. 1 minute passed, and she silently counted down from 60. Finally, when she removed the cloth bag from her head, she burst into tears, choked up with relief at having survived. The brown-haired girl, wearing a hat and pale yellow shirt, was still trembling. When she heard the call, hello, she continued to pretend to be unconscious. But Black Scythe already knew he could hear her thoughts. Black Scythe asked her directly, how long do you intend to keep pretending? Knowing she couldn't hide it, she nervously apologized. The girl awkwardly asked if she could remove the bag covering her head, but Black Scythe ordered her to keep it on until he left. Black Scythe announced he would only ask a few questions before leaving. The girl quickly nodded in agreement to cooperate. He asked about the number of customers she had met. The girl clearly remembered only 4 people, and only one of them she had enough contact with to remember the face, a man about 40 years old. Looking at the girl, Black Scythe confirmed in his mind that she was telling the truth. After gathering enough information, Black Scythe said, "All right, that's enough." The girl timidly asked if everything was really over. Black Scythe reassured her that she could go home, but reminded her not to report to the police if she didn't want trouble. She agreed and was told to wait 1 minute before removing the bag. The girl timidly nodded, obeying in fear. After counting to 60, the girl removed the hood bag. Breathing a sigh of relief, she still couldn't believe her eyes. All traces had vanished. No blood, no corpses, as if nothing had ever happened. Ryu-1 was surprised to see his older brother, Ryu-Min, wearing his old hoodie, a shirt that held special meaning for the two brothers. Seeing Ryu-Min about to discard the shirt, one anxiously asked why. Min calmly replied that the shirt was old and he would buy one a new one. Ryu-1 tried to persuade his brother to keep the shirt because it was something he treasured, but Ryu-Min gently said he would buy a better one. Though he didn't say it aloud, Ryu-1 was still sad. He admitted that given the current situation, school closed, unable to go outside, having a new shirt didn't really matter. Ryu-Min silently looked at his younger brother. He understood one's sadness, because for kids like Shim Hyuntik, peaceful life had been disrupted, forcing the boy to live quietly at home. Suddenly, Ryu-Min asked one, "Want to go out with me tomorrow? Can we go to Everland?" One's eyes immediately lit up. Ryu-1 was so happy he couldn't believe the invitation. When Ryu-Min confirmed, he quickly agreed and excitedly prepared for dinner and an early bedtime to wait for tomorrow. The short brown-haired girl wearing a yellow apron, a waitress at the cafe, appeared friendly while interacting with a group of 3 young men. They had just entered, clearly regular customers or had a special connection. The 3 young men sat at a table, chatting normally. The one in the middle, seemingly the leader, signaled the other 2 to act. The atmosphere became tense despite the peaceful exterior. The leader signaled targeting the waitress, changing his gaze from gentle to cold. He asked, "If you had to choose someone in this cafe to kill, who would you pick?" The girl froze, eyes trembling, not understanding what was happening. This was the final test in the mysterious organization's interview. In a dark room, 3 young players, Teeny Clam, Black Dragon, and Black Scythe, were being interviewed by a man in a white shirt. He demanded they kill a specific target to prove their loyalty to the PUF organization. Teeny Clam, real name Kim Seunghyun, bowed before the interviewer. He concealed his true identity, impersonating the account Little Cockle, to meet the conditions for owning the clone rune. Black Dragon, real name Shim Hyuntik, remained silent, his face cold, while Black Scythe, real name Kim In-hong, wore a mask, sitting quietly observing, keeping his distance from the other 2. The interviewer reminded them of the condition to obtain the rune. Only by killing another person with their own hands can a player prove their determination to reverse the world, a bloody challenge. Black Scythe did not oppose the plan. Teeny Clam immediately volunteered to carry out the killing instead of him. He tried to appear sincere, but hid many schemes in his heart. Ryu-Min immediately responded with excitement. "So cool, and cute too, let's finalize that set." He grabbed a few more accessories. The 2 brothers began exploring the booth. Min marveled at the number of cute items, while Ryu-1 smiled kindly. "Take whatever you want, One." Leaving the store, Ryu-Min's arms full of stuffed animals, Ryu-1 snacked while asking, "What do you want to do now?" Min enthusiastically replied, "Do everything here." They both rode the roller coaster together. While Min screamed excitedly, one kept a calm expression as if nothing was happening. Then they continued to play the water ride. Water splashed everywhere. Ryu-1 laughed while Ryu-Min also beamed brightly. This was a rare moment they truly enjoyed together. The twin pandas were playing on a bamboo platform, creating a cute and peaceful scene in nature. Ryu-Min and his close friend were at the zoo. Ryu-Min beamed at the twin pandas while his friend silently thought, "He was really sad yesterday. Luckily, I invited him out." Ryu-Min suddenly realized, "Tomorrow is May 1st. Can you still hang out with me, Min?" His heart mixed with joy and worry. His close friend patted Ryu-Min's shoulder, reassuring, "Don't worry, I'll be fine. This time it will last more than 10 hours. Don't panic if you see me sleeping long." Ryu-Min felt even more uneasy hearing that. 10 hours? Isn't that dangerous? You have to come back safely. His friend smiled gently. "Oh my, you worry too much." He softly patted Ryu-Min's head and gently promised, "I promise I will never leave you alone." The heavy atmosphere quickly dissipated. His friend changed the subject with a sparkling smile. "Come on, what's next? Safari ride?" Ryu-Min immediately agreed. The skyscraper glittered with lights at night, where the 2 lived, standing as a silent landmark before the coming storm. Night of April 30th, 11:50 p.m. Ryu-Min lay awake in bed, eyes thoughtful. The phone rang, the screen showed, Min Jury. Min Jury messaged Ryu-Min anxiously. "Min, it's almost midnight, but this time it will be fine. Hang in there." Ryu-Min thought silently. She must be very nervous. Ryu-Min smiled gently looking at the phone. He silently promised, "Don't worry, from now on I will protect you." He placed the phone beside the clock. The fateful moment was approaching. 12:00 exactly on May 1st. Light emitted from the phone screen. Ryumin quietly thought, it's time. At the new round arena, players appeared one by one in beams of light. Ryumin, dressed as the Grim Reaper, stood out among the crowd, his gaze sharp like the scythe of death. Some players looked around confused. Where is everyone? No way, maybe they haven't arrived yet, Ryumin said in a low voice. Last time there were over 500 survivors. That makes sense, another nodded. But the atmosphere remained quiet, making everyone feel something was missing. Ryumin looked toward the blazing red sunset. The emptiness feels right. Nearly 10,000 people started the first round, but this feeling will disappear soon. From the blood-red sky, an angel with enormous wings and a dazzling halo appeared, compressing the entire space. The angel's voice rang out like a vow. Glad to see you all again. Congratulations on making it to round 5. The blonde angel, who had appeared in previous rounds, smiled mockingly, asking why everyone looked so serious. The smile hidden behind his blindfold was full of provocation and pride. He continued his cruel teasing, praising the players for enjoying killing their kind in the previous round. The man in the brown cloak, seen in image 77, clenched his fist in anger, while the woman and man standing beside him remained silently gloomy. Noticing the player's cold reaction, the angel stopped teasing. However, his disappointment was clear from his bored expression and the tusk sound, as no one reacted as he expected. The angel announced the exact number. Only 442 survivors were summoned. According to the system, there should have been 521. But nearly 80 had disappeared, likely due to real-life conflicts. One player was surprised by the continuing decrease, but another calmly confirmed, that happens every time. The angel nonchalantly declared that life and death outside had nothing to do with him. However, the angel said that with so few players left, the game would no longer be fun. His tone gradually changed, becoming more serious and gloomy. Finally, he smiled slyly, his eyes flashing with malice. Therefore, he said, I have prepared a surprise for all of you.